Hey, this is Sky. Welcome to my YouTube channel. It's the beginning of the month. I want to do another episode of Biker News. Let's do December's episode of Biker News. I got a few stories here that I want to talk about, and let's just get right into it. The first one is a new helmet put out by an Italian company called Airo. It's spelled funny. It's A-I-R-O-H. The Airo helmet was displayed at a big show recently. This article just came out yesterday. I'm going to show you a picture of it. And it's an airbag helmet. So when you crash, an airbag deploys. The helmet is rather strange. This is what it looks like with the airbag deployed. Without the airbag deployed, it just looks like a normal helmet. So, can you see those photos there? You see that white bag that deploys at the top of the head? That's the airbag helmet. Airbag systems are nothing new. We've seen vests, jackets, leather jackets, things that have airbag systems in them. They kind of blow you up like the Michelin Man a little bit if you fall. However, Italian company Airo wants to take this a step further by integrating the explosive safety technology into a motorcycle helmet. So this is their prototype. They say it reduces the chance of fatality by 50%. Here's another picture of what it looks like with it deployed. See, it's got those little plastic flaps underneath it that are segmented. And I assume that when you crash, those break off. But the deployment of the bag is supposed to save you. Now, it does say in this article, see, here's what the helmet looks like without it deployed. So it looks like a normal helmet. They say in the article, this is the back of it, that it's a similar technology to inside of your car. So it's a gas that fills up the bag, and that's how it expands. And I guess all we can do is hope that there's no puncture of the bag, because otherwise, won't that gas melt your face off? So I thought this was an interesting idea. Let's see how well it makes it to market and see what they charge for it. A helmet like this might cost you $3,000, you know, in fucking today's inflation, who the hell knows? The only way that they'll sell that helmet is if they could come in at a decent price. It's got to be $500 or less. The next article is national news. It was in dealer news. If you follow the motorcycle industry, I suggest that you go to dealernews.com. That's the best source of motorcycle industry news. It's not an Easy Rider magazine. This is what people in the motorcycle industry, like myself, who own motorcycle shops, you wonder who the fuck I am. I own a motorcycle shop. I started it in Los Angeles in the year 2001. We moved it to Daytona Beach in the year 2004. We've been rocking and rolling ever since. We mainly do custom motorcycles, and what we've been doing for the last 7 years, mainly, specifically, is fabricating motorcycle parts and bending handlebars. We bend them 100% by hand. We use Bailey rotary draw benders, and we've been doing pretty well with that. We're kind of the handlebar kings. We used to have a big display up at Destination Daytona here in Daytona, which is where our Harley dealership is. We have the largest Harley dealership in the nation. Think of the Harley dealership in whatever town you live in. Our Harley dealership is 7 or 8 times that size. It's much bigger. The funny thing is the former owner of Harley Davidson, this guy Bruce Rossmeyer, was 450 pounds easy, not very tall, big fat motherfucker, nice guy. He's dead, so rest in peace. I'm not going to talk shit about him, but he was fat. Anybody who knows him knows he was fat, big fat guy. And he used to have a billboard along the highway near Daytona, coming from Orlando. That was just an advertisement for the Daytona Beach Harley Davidson, the Destination Daytona complex, and it said on there, the largest Harley dealer in the world, which was true, but I always thought it was funny because the guy was 450 pounds or something, so I kind of took it as a statement of his weight. He's the fattest Harley Davidson dealer in the world. But again, he's dead. He died in a car accident several years ago at Sturgis, and he was a nice guy, and I like him and his family, so I'm not trying to be mean. I just have a dark sense of humor. But the reason why I brought up Bruce Rossmeyer's Harley Davidson Destination Daytona complex is they just recently announced that it's sold. Now, the deal had been started, I think, 2 years ago, and had been in the works and whatever. So when they released the information, it's a done deal. It's already been done. It's not pending. This may have finalized, and the Rossmeyer family may have gotten paid last year. They may already have moved out of town for all we know. I actually think that some of the family members are going to stay on as management. But Bruce Rossmeyer's family, Bruce Rossmeyer and the Rossmeyer family, owned Destination Daytona, owned the Daytona Harley Davidson. It wasn't always in that one location up there. They've owned it for 30 years. Rossmeyer has an interesting story on his own. And everybody in this town knows about it. The police know about it. Everybody knows about it. Rossmeyer was, he's Jewish, but he was a street thug when he was younger. And he knew made guys in the mafia. He had friends that were involved in that world. Through whatever business deal that had happened, that had fell through, there was an arrest, an investigation into the mafia that he was hanging out with, and Rossmeyer took the arrest, kept his mouth shut, and did somewhere around 18 months for the mob. He took the fall and kept his mouth shut, did his time like a man, stand-up guy, and when he got out, he was given millions of dollars as a reward, as a thank you. You did a good job, here's a bunch of money. So he took that money and went and bought a bunch of automotive dealerships, and then eventually bought the car dealership. But that's always been the word around town, and I'm not snitching anybody out. Everybody, even the local sheriffs talk about that shit. Everybody talks about that story. When he died, his daughter and his son, Shelley Rossmeyer, and I forget his son's name. I'm better friends with Shelley than I am his son. I've only met the son once or twice, but I've known Shelley as a friend for years. They ran the Harley Davidson dealership. This is a picture of it. You see that little tiny picture up there? See that picture? That's what our Harley Davidson dealership looks like. And they ran that dealership successfully for a long time, but it was the father's dream. It was Bruce Rossmeyer's dream, and Bruce died. So I don't blame them for selling it. There is some feelings around town that, oh, you left us, that nobody knows who this new guy is. It's bought by a Texas billionaire, and he owns a company. I'm trying to find it here. It's called the Teddy Morse. His name is Teddy Morse of the Ed Morse Automotive Group. So this guy, Teddy Morse, owns many dealerships, both motorcycle and automotive, throughout the country, mainly in Texas. And now they own our dealership, and they're going to change the name. I don't really know what's going to happen with the property, if they'll keep it the way it is or if they'll change it. The last story is probably more interesting for some of you guys, and I want to talk about the Mongols in Chicago. This is the Illinois chapter of the Mongols in Chicago. This is an article from the Chicago Sun-Times that just came out. Biker war brewing in Chicago as Mongol Nation pushes on to outlaw motorcycle club turf. Now, I thought this was funny. I'm not trying to step on any toes. I know outlaws and I know Mongols. And I'm friendly I'm not going to say I'm not an associate. I don't hang around. You won't find me at their clubhouses. I have nothing to do with these guys, but I do know them, and we're on good terms. I warned the Outlaws when the Mongols were setting up shop in Florida. And the thing is the Outlaws are part of the Black and White Nation, and anywhere there's a black and white club, other black and white clubs have been setting up shop. So it used to be where a lot of the black and white clubs just kind of had their turf. The Outlaws have always had Florida, and they've had Chicago, Illinois, specifically Chicago, for a long time. Chicago, the city of Chicago, has always been outlaw turf. The Outlaws are an old club. They've been around since the 1930s. But I warned them when they brought the Mongols in. Not that I had anything against the Mongols, but the Mongols are a powerhouse club. They're big, and they will steamroll right over you. They're bigger than the Outlaws. The Mongols are a bigger club, and they have more recruiting power. They're more dominant, I would say. Not to take anything away from the Outlaws. But I warned them that this is possibly a bad idea. So there was an alliance between the Outlaws, the Pagans, and the Mongols. In the last few years, the Outlaws and the Pagans have had a major falling out. And I don't know what they're like in other states, but here in Florida, the Outlaws and the Pagans are at war. And now there's a war between the Mongols and the Outlaws, just as I predicted. This alliance didn't work, just as I predicted. I'm sorry that I'm right. 5 people were shot last weekend in a Southwest bar amid escalating violence between rival biker clubs. After years of relative peace, Chicago's infamous outlaw motorcycle club once again is at war with a rival group. This time it's the Mongols. The Mongols set up in Chicago about 3 years ago, and they have been pretty confrontational to the Outlaws, although the Mongols president claims that they never had any, this is the Mongols in Illinois, claims that they never had any desire to start a beef with the Outlaws, and he says that they draw from 2 different demographics, being the Mongols being mostly a Latino club, and Chicago, which is I think it's a great move for the Mongols as far as recruiting. Chicago is full of Mexicans and Latinos from all over. I think that they'll do really well there. So 5 people were shot at a bar. 4 of them were Mongols, 1 of them was an outlaw. No, sorry, I had that exactly opposite. 4 of them were outlaws, and 1 of them was a Mongol. This is just the front of the bar. The Mongols were having a party, and 20 outlaws stormed the bar. A shootout ensued very quickly. 1 Mongol was hit in the right arm. The rest were outlaws. Nobody was killed. And these guys have had a little bit of a history over the last year of back and forth violence. So I think that people should prepare in that part of the country. You need to prepare for a full-on war. The Mongols are going to take over Chicago, and that's the end of that. And I believe it'll happen here in Florida too, just like I've predicted. I told the Outlaws, if you let the Mongols set up club here, they're going to take over the state. You guys you'll eventually, you're going to be forced to patch over or leave. Biker News, December.